Welcome everybody, good morning. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining in this celebration as we honor this class. And before I forget my manners and thinking a little bit about last night, later on in the talk, I'll talk about some superhuman efforts. And it just so happens that last night we had some superhuman efforts, including some superpowers which involved lightning repellent people. So thank you to all in B&G, and thank you for all in the dining services for making last night's occasion and today's occasion possible. So welcome to you all on this rather perfect day. A few sets of remarks. Maneuvers and lists are all that stand between us and a very happy graduation, so we'll do our best to move things along, but at the same time, let us not rush. Let's settle in just for a bit to enjoy these moments around us. This wonderful class gives us reason to celebrate and rejoice, but they also give us pause to reflect. And reflecting can be enjoyable too, if you take the necessary precautions and use safety equipment. On this occasion, it is natural to ask, to what degree has our mission been accomplished? And so I do just that, for real. I actually ask that of each of us, even of the people who are not in robes tonight. Today, why should just the graduates get to enjoy a good existential crisis? I do mean accomplishing a life mission in a big, broad sense, but being an LA mission evangelist myself, I also mean Lawrence Academy's mission, and particularly that final part, the part about, quote, taking responsibility for who you want to become. And that part I do aim more squarely at the graduates. To what degree has each of us become the champion and cause of his or her own becoming. How much of that has been accomplished years to date? And what's the payoff of this mission of becoming anyway? We'll use the class of 2015 to start to answer the question. You have accomplished both your individual and our collective mission to a very great and wonderful degree. You are talented. You have achieved mastery over labs and studios and fields. You have a certain power and grace and even swag. You won a few championships, but you have also grown in self-awareness and self-control. You have fine-tuned your motivations and your ambitions. You've grown up nice. You even clean up nice. In short, you are accomplished. But are you mission accomplished? So another answer we might give to this question of taking responsibility for identity and destiny, the other answer is maybe not at all. Even the most accomplished among us, the most talented, the most self-aware, the most wonderfulest of us all, not even Gary Lai, is fully equipped to take responsibility for who he or she wants to become. I say this not because I'm a hater or a liar. I say this because, and it's not because of any deficiency in any one of you graduates or you others individually, it's just because of certain normal human conditions that affect responsibility and identity and challenge our mission. I will just name 3. 1, lots of other people, including people you and we haven't met, will be part of who you and we become. 2, the job of being and becoming responsible is a life's work. We are not finished yet, and we may never be finished. 3, we do not know yet what the world needs from us. So a question that is more suitable for graduates: what will your life's work be? Where will your identity and your destiny meet? I'll give you one key ingredient and a set of examples. The ingredient is part of the mission, the part on which the whole mission turns. LA recognizes you for who you are and inspires you to take responsibility for who you want to become. The key ingredient is inspiration, inspiring. And the question is, what inspires you? Or more correctly, who inspires you? Fortunately, there are people out there in the world who have taken some serious responsibility for who they are becoming, and we can look to them. I'll start with one seemingly random example, which of course comes from binge streaming on Netflix. So speaking of ingredients, I recently discovered and devoured a short documentary series on Netflix called Chef's Table. It's one of those frustrating food shows where you want to eat everything in front of you, but you can't get to the TV to do it. The series begins by focusing on Massimo Bottura, a chef who works in the town of Modena in Italy. The opening sequence of the episode focuses on an earthquake that struck Modena in 2012. As a result of the earthquake, 360,000 huge wheels of locally produced Parmigiano Reggiano cheese were damaged. It's a lot of damaged cheese. If the cheese could not be used, if it could not be saved, people would lose money and jobs and livelihoods. It would be a disaster on top of a disaster. Chef Massimo saw this as a crisis that needed to be confronted. He immediately conceived a recipe for risotto cacio e pepe that was prepared and served worldwide almost immediately and simultaneously. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dinners of risotto cacio e pepe. All 360,000 wheels of cheese were used and many livelihoods were saved. At the end of the brief 3-minute intro to the whole series, Chef Massimo says in his impeccable accent, this was a recipe as a social justice. As I watched the rest of this documentary and the other chefs in the series, I started to realize I recognize you people. You are those talented, intense, transcendent, inspirational leading figures among us. You are the multi-million hit TED Talk people with your big minds, your big hearts, your big souls. You're Paul Farmer, a doctor whose mission started in Haiti and now is to cure the world. You're Samantha Power, a journalist whose mission was to tell the story of genocide and whose present mission is as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. You're Brian Stevenson, the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, whose mission it is to expose racial imbalance in our nation's system of justice. These are people whose very lives have been turned into a mission. Their responsibility to become themselves has totally and naturally become a responsibility to the world, a moral and spiritual practice and discipline. And that is mission accomplishing stuff. When you are fully committed, your talents extend to others, you most fully become yourself, and you most fully serve others. You develop a life's work that cannot be captured in any single occupation. It's a tall order for any group, but I do not believe it's a tall order or anything that would be inappropriate for these graduates, because we believe you can rise to it. You can, and you will. Last example, the great American poet William Carlos Williams was also a practicing doctor for his entire career, 40 years. A general practitioner and a physician who walked his neighborhood on old-fashioned house calls, and then early in the morning and late at night, he scribbled out poems, which became famous in the American canon. In his autobiography, The Practice, he describes how others ask him, "How do you do it? How can you carry on an active business like that and at the same time find time to write? You must be superhuman." He answers, "But they do not grasp that one occupation complements the other, that they are two parts of a whole, that it is not two jobs at all." Practice becomes mission. Mission becomes practice. So we find the shared sense of responsibility that is the only real, worthwhile, pays-in-the-end job on this planet, the ultimate mastery project, the ultimate artful act. As you leave this beautiful hillside, I hope you have been inspired. Because when you are inspired, the work you do expands beyond the immediate project and task at hand. It becomes beautiful. It becomes compassionate. It becomes meaningful. It becomes these things because you become these things. You become inspiring, and you change the world around you. Lastly, even as we consider these seemingly superhuman, inspirational figures, I want to again thank the superhumans amongst us. Trustees, alumni, and friends, you inspire us. Family members, you inspire us with your love and care. Faculty and staff, every day you inspire and transform and shape young lives. These are superpowers, and there is no greater responsibility. In superhero terms, what is most important is the fight for justice. Members of the class of 2015, graduates, you are not just a collection of individuals assembled to move on. You are now in the position of delivering inspiration. Mind your practice, mind your mission. There is your work, your purpose, your connection to the world around you. Class of 2015, you make us as hopeful as you make us proud. With that, I'd like to introduce the person who will introduce our speaker, someone who has served ably and wonderfully this year as our seniors class president, Nick Schutz.
Good morning, Lawrence Academy. My name is Nicholas Schutz, and I'm here today to introduce our 2015 Lawrence Academy graduation speaker. The man in front of us all is named Charles M. Sennett. Charles is an award-winning foreign correspondent, author, and editor with more than 30 years of experience in journalism. Mr. Sennett has reported on the front lines of wars and insurgencies in at least 15 different countries, including the 2011 revolution in Cairo and the Arab Spring. Mr. Sennett's deep experience reporting internationally led him to launch the Ground Truth Project and to dedicate himself to training the next generation of international journalists for the digital age. If that wasn't already enough, Mr. Sennett is also the co-founder of Global Post, an acclaimed international news website. Charlie's father, Robert, went to Lawrence Academy along with his twin brother, Richard. Richard was a trustee here from 1989 to 1996. Now, with great honor, with great applause, can we please welcome our 2015 graduation speaker, Charlie Sennett.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for that kind introduction. Thank you, Dan, for the wonderful opening remarks. Really want to thank all of you for coming. I want to thank the Board of Trustees, the faculty. I want to do a special shout out to Helly Swartwood, who is my neighbor and friend and reintroduced me to Lawrence and got me thinking about what I could come here to say today. So thank you, Helly. I want to thank the parents of all of the students who are here. Congratulations to all of you. Oh yeah, and I want to thank the graduating class of Lawrence Academy 2015. Congratulations. All right, Nick gave me a kind introduction, but I want to really talk to you today about my craft, what I do as a foreign correspondent, as a journalist, and that is tell stories. Because I think learning how to tell your own story is one of the most important skills you need to have in life. You're going to go out into the world to tell your story, not just to get, into college, which presumably many of you have done, congratulations. But you're going to tell your story to get your first job. You're going to tell your story to meet friends. You're going to tell your story, and in telling your story, you define who you are, and you figure out where you want to go. So telling your story is about more than a resume. It's about knowing who you are. And it's a craft, it's an art. And I want to really encourage you to stay with it. I know writing has been a big part of your experience here, your education here. And I know that journaling and storytelling is central to the educational mission of this school. Stay with it. It's not just a writing course. It's not just an essay you have to write. It's your life, and you're going to write your own narrative. When you do this, you're going to find out that you have the chance in crafting those words about who you are to tell the story of where you came from, but also to write it in your own way and to direct it in your own way. This is an age of selfies. It's an age of going on to your Facebook pages or communicating through Twitter or however you communicate, whether it's through Instagram or Snapchat. You are digital natives. You know this. You know how much of every moment of your life is recorded. All day long, you're getting these small pieces of content that you assemble. But what I want to challenge you to do is to assemble them in a way that it really becomes a narrative, that it really becomes a story. How do you take all that great digital energy that's out there and bring it together in your life? I think there's some challenges there for this generation to do that. You have incredible opportunity to redefine how we do journalism, how we will think about so many different fields. But storytelling is really going to be at the core of whatever you do. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story because I want to tell you what's happening in journalism these days. It's an exciting time. How many of you here keep an active online journal in the form of Facebook or some form of your own website. How many of you graduates are actually doing something like that right now? Keeping your own digital story alive. Okay. You know how to tell your story, and I'm sure there are a lot of stories you don't want told right now. But there are stories that have come out of this campus, out of this school for more than 225 years that are extraordinary stories. They're stories of excellence, and they're stories of challenges, and they're stories of people who went out and lived their dreams, and they're stories about people who worked hard, did great things, and people who worked hard and were just simply good people and did things for their family and were unselfish. And maybe they're some of the alum who are here today. Maybe they're your parents. But those stories are extraordinary. I know a couple I was thinking of, Tim Armstrong, who I've gotten to know in this industry. Tim is a graduate from Lawrence. He journeyed from a small town, Littleton, Massachusetts, to some big dreams of becoming a digital entrepreneur and a very successful one, and he's now the CEO of AOL. Shabazz Napier, who wrote his own story, going from Mission Hill Projects in Roxbury to UConn, 2 national championships, and now the Miami Heat. Those are big stories, but there are smaller stories that are equally meaningful that come out of here. And one of them that comes out of Lawrence Academy is the story of my dad. My dad, Robert F. Sennett, came to Lawrence with his twin brother, Richard, right after World War II. They didn't finish their senior year in high school because they went to fight a war. And they came here and graduated in the first class after the war. Tremendous opportunity for them. My father went on from Lawrence Academy to start a potato farm in Maine. Hopeless romantic Irishman goes and plants potatoes in Maine. His twin brother went to the Chicago Board of Trade and bought futures in soy. I'll leave it up to you to guess which one gave a very generous gift to the capital campaign at Lawrence Academy. They were both tremendous successes, one more of a financial success than the other, but they were dear friends, good brothers, and they had a great story. And their story of coming out of World War II and following their different passions is their story. My dad left Maine, started a business in Massachusetts called Westward Homes, and he was very successful in his own way, and he was always inspired by what he learned here. Even though he didn't go on to college, to graduate school, or have a life of sort of, intellectual curiosity, he always loved poetry, which he always talked about learning here, and I can hear him saying that. He died young. He died when I was 18, but I still love telling his story because it's a story about following your passion. It's a story about staying true to what you believe in. And he was a great father, 5 children, great husband, and had a great story. So when you set out in the world, you're going to have your stories, and you will retell them. And even the ones you don't want to tell today, because it's just not polite to tell some of the stories that you have under those caps right now. Let me tell you my story. I'm a journalist. I graduated from high school in 1980. It was a long time ago. There was a new basketball player on the Celtics called Larry Bird. You might have heard of him. There was a lot of bad hair and great music. It was a different time. There was no Google. There was no internet. There were no cell phones, if you can possibly imagine a time like that. But I knew I loved journalism, so I got an internship at a small radio station, and that was sort of my first time I got to practice storytelling, and that led to going into college radio and college journalism. And the first story I ever covered was my own graduation from UMass Amherst, where Dr. J received an honorary doctorate. Dr. J is Julius Erving, for those of you who may not be of that generation. He invented something called the dunk. You may have heard of it. From there, UMass, I went on to Columbia School of Journalism, and then I went to the Bergen Record, the first newspaper I worked at. Loved newspapering. Got to the New York Daily News, just across the river from New Jersey, the big time, New York City. I was a street reporter. And that's what I was doing in 1993 in Lower Manhattan when I heard a loud bang. And in my job, when you heard a loud bang, you kind of had to stop for a minute because it could be your job to figure out what that was. Then I heard sirens. And then I heard the sirens keep coming, so I decided to walk toward where this was all happening, and it was the World Trade Center. It was 1993. And it was the first World Trade Center bombing. But when I got there, no one thought it was a bombing. This is 1993, before people would have thought terrorism immediately. It's 8 years before 9/11. It was the first time that Islamic militants had tried to blow up the World Trade Center. But back then, it felt like a crime story that we just had to figure out. And it led me to reporting on who were these people who tried to do this. And it took me to Egypt, and then it took me to Pakistan, and then it took me to the Sudan. And it took me really all over the Middle East trying to figure out why would this group of angry cab drivers from New York City want to try to do something like that. And it's a journey of discovery. It's my story that I am still trying to tell now, all those years later. For more than 20 years, I have stayed on this story. So it led me to report on what became nascent Al-Qaeda. We didn't know that at the time. I left the Daily News and went to the Boston Globe, and I became the Boston Globe's Middle East bureau chief, where I stayed on that story for 8 more years and had a family along the way. We had 3 sons in 2001 when we were living in Jerusalem. I was based there as the Middle East correspondent. And the Intifada, the Palestinian Intifada, began to sort of close in around us in the summer of 2001, and we felt like it was getting a little too dangerous to have a family. I loved my work, but I didn't know if I could live with myself if one of my children or my wife were hurt while I was on assignment. So we left. The Boston Globe moved us to London, where I became the London bureau chief, and I thought, this is great. I'm going to put on the blue blazer, cover Paris, no more Middle East. We moved to London on September 5th, 2001. Our moving truck arrived September 11th, 2001. And I knew I'm not done with the story. I knew I had to go to Afghanistan. I had to stay on this story, and I had to keep reporting it out. And so I did. And I was thinking about, how do I tell you about what it's been like to cover this story for so long, when it's become such a defining moment for our country? And it's hard to know where to begin that, but just basically I want to share with you that it was so unbelievable in the days after 9/11 to arrive in Afghanistan among the first reporters on the ground, and we had to go by horseback into Afghanistan. And here I was covering the first war of the 21st century, and I felt like I was covering the Civil War. I was on a horse in a country that was a failed state with no roads. There were no trucks that you could just sort of pick up and use to drive. There was no infrastructure. There was nothing. It's a long journey I've had reporting that story and then covering the war in Iraq. But I just went back to Afghanistan a few weeks ago, and I was struck by the really pretty amazing transformation of the place. New roads, new schools, girls' schools, hope, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And there's still Americans who are there, 10,000 soldiers who are there, who are still on the ground serving the country. And I feel like we've just come off Memorial Day. I sometimes feel like we forget about that. So I want to stop for a moment and just sort of think about all of the service from this country, from those who have dedicated their lives to that and done that kind of public service and being in the military. And also of the Afghan people and of the people in Iraq and of all of us who have collectively, as humans, lived through this time of war. I think we're approaching the end of it. President Obama has said the troops will be out by next year, so I hope your graduating class will be the last one in which America is actively at war. I really pray for that, for you. I pray for peace. I pray for the future. My story after covering all those wars was that when I came back from doing that, I realized that this industry I loved, newspapers, was dying. How many of you read a newspaper? Okay, 1, 2, thank you, 3. It doesn't make sense. Why would you go out and slaughter a forest, turn it into paper pulp, truck all that wood back to a plant where you then process it using 150-gallon barrels of toxic ink, mix it all together, put it at the end of a driveway, and no one reads it? That's not a good business model. So newspapers were under stress when I came back from those years of reporting. It was 2006, and I was given an incredible opportunity to be a Nieman Fellow at Harvard University. Basically, it was a year off. I won't kid you. This wasn't like so academic. I did Irish poetry, I did life drawing, took a music appreciation class, much like your college years ahead of you. I had the greatest time, and I don't want you to miss your years of stepping back and reflecting and learning and reading and music appreciation. I realized those are the things that transform you, that give you the time to breathe. And I had a moment to breathe in the middle of my career, and I thought, you know what? This thing I love, newspapers, is going to die. And I could either tell a story like some old guy about how great it was being a newspaper reporter, or I could rewrite my story, redraft it, and be an entrepreneur, and jump into a revolutionary moment in media and try to start something new. So the newspapers were cutting all their foreign coverage. The Boston Globe closed all its foreign bureaus. Chicago Tribune, Philadelphia Inquirer, Baltimore Sun, even the LA Times dramatically shrunk its foreign coverage. It was as if we were going to stop covering the world at a time when we needed to know about the world. So instead of kind of whining about it, I thought, that's an opportunity. Believe me, journalists love to whine. Don't get me wrong. I did my fair share of whining. But once I got over that, I said, what if we started something new? And that was Global Post. How many of you have been on Global Post? Please just even lie a little bit. Like raise your hands. Okay. Getting better. Global Post's online news organization, we're really proud of it. It's got about 70 correspondents in 50 countries. And it's really won a lot of awards. It's great work. But the business model at Global Post is still a huge challenge. And that led me to start something called the Ground Truth Project. I realized that I'm proud of Global Post. It's a for-profit business. We've got to figure out these new business models that will sustain great journalism. But right now, I want to go back to the core. And going back to the core, for me, is going back to ground truth. And how many of you have ever heard of this phrase, ground truth? Okay, I see a hand or two back here. It's used in a lot of contexts. The military use it a lot. Meteorologists use it a lot. But it was coined by NASA, and it has a very precise meaning. Ground truth is a calibration process. You know when you're on Google Earth and you come down and you can see like Lawrence Academy, and you can come down on Google Earth and look at it, see how the pixels take shape, figure out where you are? In order for satellite imagery to work, you have to constantly calibrate it against reality on the ground. So what they do in that calibration process is they have a human being go out with a camera, with a lens, and photograph a patch of Earth very carefully, very closely. And then they compare the satellite imagery, the technology, to that ground truth, what they call the human reading. Ground truth. And what I love, I never thought of NASA as poetic, but NASA says, if the two conflict, if the satellite technology conflicts with the human reading, the ground truth, trust the human reading. The Ground Truth Project is dedicated to inspiring a new generation, you, to become journalists, to think about becoming correspondents, to think about, in an age of too much information, too many pixels, too much digital content, and not enough ground truth, not enough being there and telling the story. So the Ground Truth Project, my second startup, has been a continuation of a story for me, which is about being an entrepreneur. And I want to not only encourage you to tell your own story, but to think like entrepreneurs. You have to do that because the jobs you're going to have in the future are jobs that haven't been created yet. No matter what you do, whether it's your own startup or whether it's working for a big company, you're going to need to be innovative because it's a time of innovation. So in the end of the day, you're going to have your own ground truth. And that ground truth is going to be the basis for you to tell your story. And I want to encourage you to go out and be bold in telling that story. Define your life in ways that you confront weaknesses by finding new strengths. That you look at the challenges that are ahead of you and you find a way to navigate forward no matter what happens. Because when you do that, that's your life story. That's your ground truth. And the stories that you write about your lives, your stories, are going to be important because they're our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Now, as we move to prizes, I do want to draw attention both to the prizes that have already been awarded during the course of the year and also to those members of the graduating class who are indicated by asterisk in your program who have been inducted into the Cum Laude Society. So these are the graduation awards, the qualities and accomplishments that we most want to celebrate as we look from one year to the next. The Margaret Price White Award, given by Robert F. White, class of 1940, in honor and memory of his wife, Margaret Price White. The award is presented to a member of the sophomore class whose motivation, work ethic, and attitude toward all areas of school life have quietly and unassumingly earned the respect of the faculty. Taylor Goodman Leong. Long walk from the back. Quick hello to all you freshmen, sophomores, and juniors out there. How you doing? Yeah. A couple more for you. The Thomas B. Warner Memorial Prize, worth a moment's pause, established in September 1979 by the Warner family and friends shortly after his death in memory of Thomas B. Warner, Lawrence Academy alumnus, class of 1975, who in about a week will be inducted posthumously into the Lawrence Academy Athletic Hall of Fame. To be awarded annually to that incoming senior, that is junior, who has demonstrated a remarkable determination to achieve to his or her fullest potential in the classroom, on the field, and in the extracurricular activities of the school. Jack Harlan. Long legs, faster walking. The Carl A. P. Lawrence Award, established by Mrs. Lucy W. Lawrence in memory of her husband Carl, alumnus of the class of 1910, trustee from 1954 until his death in 1972, and lifelong benefactor of Lawrence Academy. Awarded annually to that member of the junior class whose achievements in all areas of school life demonstrate competence, loyalty, and concern for others, qualities that earn Mr. Lawrence the respect of all who knew him. Dimitri Jackson. The Harvard Book Prize, awarded to that member of the junior class who combines excellence in scholarship and high character with achievement in other fields. This prize was established by Richard S. Aldrich, class of 25, in memory of his great-great-grandmother, who was in the opening Lawrence Academy class of 1794, and his mother, Mary Pickering Joy Aldrich, who was in the class of 1886. Harvard Book Prize, Philippe Lessard. The David Soren Yutter Memorial Award, awarded to a junior whose interest and activities demonstrate an appreciation of natural beauty and a love for Lawrence Academy. Renee Perkins. The James E. Baker Prize, awarded by an alumnus of the school, class of 1871, to a student in the junior class for the best all-around development in attitude and scholarship, Elise Bojanowski. Now some prizes for the senior class. Yeah. The Mary Elizabeth Chickering Prize, established by Mrs. Chickering's husband, George Chickering, class of 1930, and awarded to that day student whose academic accomplishments, wholesome school attitude, and general maturity deserve special recognition, Shelby McCormick. The Howard W. Glazier Class of 55 Award, established by the Glazier family in honor of Howard's 30th reunion, to be awarded to a student attending Lawrence for at least 2 years, whose enthusiasm and dedication to hard work have generated the most school spirit. Alex Munich. The Melvin W. Mann Award, awarded to the Lawrence senior, whose character and leadership ability have contributed most to fostering mutual respect between members of the school community. Maggie Madigan. The Proctor Award, established by Gary Edlin, class of 1963, in memory of his father, Harvey Edlin, honors that student proctor who best demonstrates qualities of integrity, initiative, and responsibility. Kendra Mack. The Richmond Baker Prize, a prize donated in honor of Richmond Baker, longtime faculty, and awarded by vote of the varsity coaches to the female athlete of the senior class who, through her dedication and determination on the athletic field, best demonstrates the qualities of a true leader. Devin Taylor. The Raymond A. Ilg Jr. Award, established by Mrs. Ilg and Ray's friends and classmates at Lawrence, class of 1939, for that senior who has shown outstanding qualities of sportsmanship, leadership, and achievement in athletics. Tim Preston. The Norman and Catherine Grant Award, Established to honor 40 years of dedicated service to Lawrence Academy by the true extraordinary people for whom it is named. It is made annually to a graduating senior who has done the most on the playing field and in his or her association with teammates to further the spirit and ideals of athletics and good sportsmanship at the Academy. Jolly Marquez. The Whitehurst Prize, given in memory of Reverend Raymond W. Whitehurst and funded in part by the class of 1984 to that member of the senior class who has evidenced exceptional growth toward maturity of conduct, opinion, and discourse, Elise Goodman. The David Thomas Kinsley Prize for Public Speaking, alumnus of the school, 1881 to 1882, established by his daughter, Catherine Mary Kinsley, to be awarded annually to the senior who displays the most outstanding skills in class discussions and formal classroom presentations, Gabriella DiVincenzo. The Tom Park Class of 29 Memorial Award, established by the Barron family in June 1989 in memory of Tom Park, Class of 1929, an outstanding citizen of the town of Groton and active supporter of Lawrence Academy, awarded to that student athlete in the graduating class who has best demonstrated loyalty and dedication in his or her athletic pursuits and academic endeavors, Paul Schnebley. The Adrian Chen Class of 1992 Award. Adrian Chen Award is awarded to a senior at graduation whose native language is not English and who has achieved linguistic and cultural fluency while enriching the Lawrence Academy community by sharing his or her language and cultures with others. Mo Chuma. The Pillsbury Prize for Character and Conduct, established by the Honorable Albert E. Pillsbury, open to any member of the graduating class, awarded for character and conduct. Samuel Weaver. Pillsbury Prize for General Improvement in Scholarship and School Duties during the course, established by the Honorable Albert E. Pillsbury and open to any member of the graduating class. Kyle Gillen Hughes. The Treisman Prize for Superior Scholastic Achievement, established by an alum, Robert S. Treisman of the class of 1953, awarded to that senior who has attended the school for at least 2 years and has become the academic leader of the school, as demonstrated by his or her ability to think independently, creatively, and deeply, by his or her enthusiastic engagement in learning, and by the superior quality of his or her scholarship. Orrin Karp. The Ferguson Prize for Leadership, awarded to that member of the senior class who has exhibited superior leadership abilities in the classroom, on the athletic fields, and in the community activities of the school. Presented by an alumnus of the class of 1971 in honor of 40 years of dedicated service to Lawrence Academy by Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Ferguson. Ferguson Prize for Leadership, Devin Taylor. The Benjamin Davis Williams Prize, established by the class of 1984 to honor Benjamin Davis Williams, headmaster of Lawrence Academy from 1969 to 1984, and awarded by vote of the faculty to that senior whose leadership qualities, innovative ideas, and varied interests in the numerous areas of Lawrence Academy life all make this a better place in which to live, to experience, and to learn. Amadou Kunate. Faculty Award. Awarded by the faculty to that member of the school whose conduct and character have contributed much to making the Academy the type of school to which a parent would wish to send a son or daughter, Kaylee Mastrangelo. And off the program, but in the spirit of tradition, periodically there is a Head of Schools Award which is given. The Head of School Award is presented to a member of the senior class who during his or her time at Lawrence Academy has been actively involved in many aspects of the school, including athletics, music and drama, the pursuit of academic excellence, the exercise of exemplary leadership, and service as an ambassador of the school, all of which were undertaken by him or her with passion, energy, and commitment. We are fortunate to have 3 such ambassadors who have enriched the school with these qualities: Jillian Clymer, Aoife Hughes, and Connor Melvin. And now we will move to another tradition of this ceremony, which is enacted through election by the senior class of a speaker, a male and a female, to represent them. Alphabetically, first we have Elise Goodman from Eleuthera in the Bahamas.
Good morning, class of 2015, faculty, staff, family, and friends. My name is Elise Goodman. I was born and raised in the Bahamas, and I've attended Lawrence Academy for 4 years. For those of you that may not know, the Bahamas is a beautiful country found in the Caribbean. Let me tell you a little something about Caribbean people. When we get really anxious, excited, and a tad bit stressed, we tend to talk extremely fast. And in case you are wondering, I'm really anxious, excited, a tiny bit stressed. So I apologize if halfway through my speech I begin to speak 100 miles per hour. My fellow classmates of 2015, I'm so privileged to have the opportunity to address you one last time before we part. One of the perks of being a graduation class, I believe, is finally being able to hear everything. I know the struggle is real for the freshmen right now in the back there. I don't know if you can hear me. But don't worry, you'll eventually get your chance. But before I start on my Spartan-spared rant about how we're the best class ever and all that good stuff, I'd like to take this time to clear things up with my father first. Dad, I don't actually go to school in Boston. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. It's just that every time I go home, they'd ask me, Elise, where do you go to school? I'd say Groton. So they'll look at me and say, where's that? So I say Massachusetts, and they're just like, Massachusetts, okay. But when I'd say Boston, only to describe our distance away from it, without fail, they'd say Boston? Like the Boston Celtics, Larry Bird, Boston? Everybody knows Boston. That's all you had to say. So Daddy, welcome to the Great Groton. Though it may not be filled with bright lights and skyscrapers, as I continue to speak this morning, you will realize that it harbors one of the best communities ever. This past week has been extremely hard. For those of you that asked again and again if my speech was done yet, yes, it's finally done this morning. I was so looking forward to that senior spring we've been promised, but I don't think that actually starts until after we get our diploma. So don't get too excited, juniors. Being a track athlete, I couldn't help but make the comparison of our high school experience to the 400-meter race. I'm sure Ms. Smith, our track coach, can verify this technique I'm about to explain. The first 100 meters are completely fine. This is where you're just beginning to get your position in the race. And that's freshman year. You begin to learn who you are. The 200-meter mark is definitely sophomore year. This is a place where we float and kind of get the hang of things. But we're still thinking, oh man, we still got 200 more meters to go. Junior year is that acceleration phase at the 300-meter mark. This is when you pull out your top speed, and in relation to academics, your top grades, because of course, it's now college time. Now, the great senior year is without a doubt an exact replication of that last 100 meters. This is definitely the hardest part of the race. It is the closest you've ever been to the finish line, but the fatigue from the first 3 stages begins to catch up. But this is also where winners emerge. I'm glad and overjoyed to say that all of us sitting here today, dressed elegantly in our caps and gowns, are winners. But that's what's happened here at Lawrence Academy. We are pushed and taught to foster a healthy and productive community that only promotes success. One that motivates us to be the best we could be and to cross the finish line as victors. From the first time we arrived on campus and went to good old Windsor Mountain, we've been helping each other to accomplish very difficult tasks. I know we all remember crossing over rivers filled with crocodiles together, filing one by one through a gigantic spider web, disposing atomic waste. Obviously, we didn't actually do any of this for all concerned parents, but these silly imaginary activities were created to teach us problem-solving skills from the get-go. In every aspect, whether in the classroom or out, we have been taught how to overcome obstacles that might seem impossible. We are so lucky to have teachers that genuinely care about us and have grown to become our parents away from home. Where else can you find teachers that are willing to drop students to the airport at 3 a.m. in the morning, bake cookies and treats for them on a regular basis, always around for extra help, and of course, the real MVPs that drop the lowest quiz grade? We have our wonderful buildings and ground staff who has workers such as Kim over in Bigelow that become so connected and involved in your daily life that you think you've known them forever. And the dining hall staff that goes above and beyond to bring us the simple joys in life, like chicken nuggets here and again, and the unforgettable ice cream Fridays. This is the definition of a community. We all laugh together, we all work together, and we all learn together. This class of 2015 is indeed a special one. We've all had our ups and downs, but the highs definitely outnumber the lows. We upheld the school spirit with our wonderful Spartan Nation, bringing every student together as we celebrated 2 league championships. We've climbed many mountains, including Mount Monadnock, or however you call it, but each journey has further equipped us with the tools required to succeed. From actors, to athletes, to dancers, to short LA cops, Lawrence Academy has nurtured us all into the people that we want to become. Now our time has come to a close, and after today, we will enter society not as regular individuals, but as young adults that have the potential to change the world. Class of 2015, let's never forget all the precious memories we've had here at Lawrence Academy. From surviving the NGP, to conquering the CSC, to being a junior, and to sitting here today. It has surely been a race, but our learning doesn't stop here. There's a world out there waiting for us to leave our mark, and we will never stop until we do so. You know, being from the Bahamas, I think I'd be immune to the heat I'm experiencing in this room, but clearly I'm not. So I won't keep us any longer than we have to be. Because Jolly, guess what came in the mail today? That's right. Let's break down barriers, climb new mountains, soar new heights, and never forget where we started, in this good old elm tree shaded hillside. Lawrence, here's to thee. All the best of luck in your future endeavors. God bless.
Thank you, Elise. Knock knock. Who's there? One joke, okay. And now our next graduation speaker, alphabetically, Oren Karp from the Pepperell, Massachusetts.
Hello, good morning. I would actually like to begin, before I get to my speech, by presenting a little award of my own. So if I could have Kobe Goodrich join me up here. There's a little story that goes with this award. On Mountain Day, which you have already heard about from some previous speakers, when we went to climb Mount Monadnock, Kobe Goodrich grabbed a tiny little pebble from the bottom of the mountain, and he brought it all the way up to the top and left it there just to give it a little change of pace, you know, a new perspective on life. And I decided that I was going to pick up a rock from the top of Mount Monadnock and bring it all the way back down the mountain, just to balance the whole thing out, because otherwise, who knows what could happen. And when I picked up that rock, Mr. Engstrom turned to me and he saw me pick up the rock and he asked what I was doing, and I explained, and he said, "Oh, Oren, you should take that rock and carry it with you at graduation." So here's that rock from the top of Mount Monadnock. Thank you. And I would like to present it as a gift to Kobe Goodrich so he can bring it back up to the top of the mountain next year. Why you should breathe. Kurt Vonnegut once said, "True terror is to wake up one morning and discover that your high school class is running the country." I have no comment on this. Kurt Vonnegut said a lot of things. But I suppose that's why I'm up here in front of all of you today, to say a lot of things. The class took a vote, and somehow they arrived at the conclusion that I'm the best male thing-sayer in our grade for this occasion. You have already heard from the best female thing-sayer in our grade. It seems to me that she has a lot more to say than I do. Perhaps I should not have led with a quote. After all, what's the point of coming up here if I'm only going to use the words someone else has already said? I don't know the answer to this question. Who will all the people out here graduating today be one day? I don't know the answer to this question either. Not knowing is underrated. Look at us here, celebrating our education. All the things we know. We've spent at least the past 12 years learning things, and now we're coming together to announce to the world that we know things. I would like to extend my sincere congratulations to all of the seniors for knowing things. But don't be afraid to not know things either. For what is life without wonder? Know what you don't know, and be okay with not knowing it. There's always more out there to learn. There's always things we will never know. So no matter how much you do know, don't know things too. This ceremony appears to me to be incredibly significant. We've been flying through high school at light speed, and on this day, they have decided to give us a few hours to pause and breathe. I urge you all to take this second to stop and breathe. If you should choose not to breathe, very well, that is your choice. Now, these few hours today are barely enough, but I suppose that only makes them more meaningful. Rarely do we get a chance throughout the year to be here at school and stop and breathe. Let's breathe again. I liked that. If you should choose to use your time to be here and breathe, you may just get something out of today. This day is, after all, about more than just a few thing-sayers standing right here where I am right now. Perhaps the freshmen in the back do not agree, but then again, perhaps they are falling asleep or whispering to each other or daydreaming. Daydreaming. Now there's a real use for your time. Really, I feel sorry for the people who can no longer daydream. It seems to me that the day I can no longer daydream is the day that I become an adult. Now that is true terror. I would like to take some time now to apologize sincerely to all of the kids out there in the audience today who have been tricked into becoming adults, running the country, filing taxes. My apology can't be much condolence. Commencement, they call this. The commencement of what? Our lives as adults. Wonderful. I can't wait to get out there into the world and participate in society, get a job and make money, get married, start a family, vote, own property, maybe even make a difference. I cried on my 7th birthday because I didn't want to get any older. I'll probably cry today for the same reason. We've all left childhood long behind, haven't we? We're adults. We take things seriously. We can't just go running around, singing in the shower and dancing to the radio. We don't have time to get lost or to not follow the plan. It's too late for second chances, for jokes, for daydreams. High school is over for all of us. Daydreams. What is it about daydreams? Kids look at things and they wonder. They aren't scared to see something new and just wonder, appreciate the beauty of what's in front of them. Kids see beauty everywhere. I'm going to ignore what I said earlier about quotes. Here is one. Youth is beauty. Brian Feigenbaum said that. So don't worry, you're all beautiful. We can check that one off the list. It's incredible to me that we can be surrounded by so much beauty every day and not see it. I want you to raise your hand right now if you see something beautiful, just right now. Thank you. Now, take the time every day when you see something beautiful to stop and say out loud, that is beautiful. If you are lucky enough to see 2 beautiful things in one day, I invite you to repeat this process for the second beautiful thing you see. I guess what I'm trying to say is I just miss the days when you could have a crush on someone. A real old-fashioned crush that you don't tell anyone about because that's just the way crushes work. The kind of thing where you walk into a room and your crush is all that you see and you check your phone later hoping to see a text from them and you smile just when you see their face. I miss that. Nowadays, it's all about adults and love, whatever that means. Kids have crushes on one another, and all adults have is love. You can go ahead and love as many people as you want, but you can only have a crush on one person, and when you have that crush, then you know it. Maybe you know when you're in love too, but what do adults really know? Now is the time when I am supposed to give you some advice. Here is some advice for you, and please bear in mind that all of it is optional. Read a book for fun every once in a while. Use sunscreen, even when it's cloudy. Find the time to show the people in your life how much they mean to you. Laugh at yourself. Let your friend know if they have something stuck in their teeth. Give yourself completely to something that you believe in. Never take anyone seriously, especially yourself. Brush your teeth at least twice a day and floss once a day. Learn something every day. Teach something every day. Notice when you are happy. Climb a tree just for the view. Bike. Tell lots and lots of jokes, especially bad ones. Eat a balanced and nutritious diet. Garden. Try a new food. Travel to somewhere you never thought you would go. Take responsibility. Daydream. Stop every once in a while to see the beauty of the world around you. Finally, and most importantly, breathe. If there is one thing I wish for you to take with you today, it's your breath. Bring it with you wherever you go, and use it however you wish. Your breath is the most powerful tool in your body. Use it when you're sad. Use it when someone else is sad. Use it when you are happy. Invite others to share theirs with you whenever you can, and be connected to them. Use it to help others, for if you have helped just one person, then you have helped all of humankind. It is also a universally accepted scientific fact that if you do not breathe enough, you will die. With this in mind, breathe as often as possible. Now, I hope you remember at least a bit of the advice I just gave you. If not, so it goes. I wouldn't want you to take anything I have to say up here seriously anyway. I encourage you all to become a part of something larger than yourself. Look up at the sky on a clear night sometime this summer and know that you're not any more than a star in the sky of humanity. Sure, if we built a spaceship and flew all the way out to see you, we would notice how large and impressive you are. I am sorry to inform you that no one is going to build a spaceship just to fly out and see how large and impressive you are. To everyone else, you're just a tiny little speck in the sky. A tiny, little, unique, beautiful star. I have this theory. It goes that if every single person on Earth stopped at the same time and took a breath, the world would be perfect for just a single second. No matter what kinds of absolutely terrible things or things happy beyond belief were going on at that moment, for just that second, the entire world would be perfect. It's that simple. Now, interpret all of this however you will. It's not the job of the thing-sayer, after all, to decide how the things he says are interpreted. Perhaps among the various things I have said today, there may even be something to be learned. perhaps there is nothing at all to be learned. But regardless, these are my things. I have said them, and you have either listened or you have not. Goodbye. And thank you to everyone here who has taken the time to change my life and the life of each of my classmates. It is my sincerest hope that every one of you continues to breathe for a very long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. And now let us award some diplomas. A couple of important features to pay attention to. One, I'd like to invite Rob Moore, Assistant Head of School, and Bruce McNeil, Chair of our board, to assist with the awarding of diplomas. Also, it's a tradition that if a graduating senior has a parent, or in some cases a grandparent, who's amongst the faculty, staff, or is a trustee, or in one case an honorary trustee, they may hand out the diplomas to their children or grandchildren. And we are happy to have 8 such moments that will punctuate and keep your attention during the awarding of diplomas. First 5 members of the class of 2015. Here we go. Mukhtaruddin Mahbub Amiri. Sung Hyun Bae. Jared Robert Burnson. Kunmani Bupamani. Brian Robert Burns. Nam Huang Cao. Richard Anthony Cardillo III. Assisting me, David, let's do this right. David Michael Casper. Assisting me with the presentation of this diploma will be Kurt Cassidy. Liam Charles Cassidy. Jillian Grace Clymer. Francis Richard Corvino III. Cornelius Joseph Crowley. Hannah Sawyer Curry. Evan Jacob Dahl. Hannah Elizabeth Davis. Gabriella Mia DiVincenzo. Heather Augusta Downing. Eric Andrew Eckberg. Fu Ret. Christian David Garrison. Erin Kathleen Gifford. Kyle James Gillen Hughes. Elise Taya Goodman. Clara Gorbena Suarez. Jessica Isabel Gross. Edward Stewart Hakala. John Michael Hackney. Nicholas John Hotchkiss. Huang Jiawei. Aoife Teresa Hughes. Assisting me with the presentation of this diploma will be Michael and Rachel Cully. Amanda Marie Johnson. Timothy Raymond Jomas. Athena Euphemia Kalabokis. Assisting with the presentation of this diploma will be Artie Karp. Oren Nathan Karp. Mugil Kuthirivan. Lauren Ann Kirk. Shelby Elizabeth Kuchta. Amadou Farouk Kunate. Matt Stephen LeBrick. Lai Haijie. Baron Lee. Caitlin Elizabeth Lassard. Meredith Stockdale Long. Austin B. Lucky. Nicholas Milton Maurice Lynch. Carmen Lyons. Kendra Marie Mack. Perrin Marsh Sewell McDonald. Colleen Anna McInnes. Margaret Elizabeth Madigan. Elena Malik. Bradley Stephen Marcolini. Jolianette Marquez Hernandez. Assisting me with the presentation of this diploma will be Donna and Frank Mistrangelo. Kaylee Marie Mastrangelo. Kaori Matsuhashi. Nicholas Mac Morrow. Shelby Lee McCormick. Connor Joseph McManus. Connor James Melvin. Catherine Adams Morgan. Connor Francis Morrison. Elizabeth Hall Morrison. Alex Michael Munich. Jack Ryan Murphy. Alexandre Bowden Ari Allen Jemba. Robert Jeffrey Nadell. Franklin D. Newman. Michael Henry Nodars. William Burke Knoll. Ethan Tadmore Adele. Rachel Valent Pagula. Stephanie Maria Plouffe. Brian Thomas Potter, Jr. Assisting with the presentation of this diploma will be Kevin Potter. Kelly Lynn Potter. Taylor Montgomery Pucell. Timothy Michael Preston. David Hooten Pine. Jeremy Joseph Ricard. Paige Elizabeth Roderick. Maximilian Runcie. Assisting with the presentation of this diploma is Lawrence Academy trustee Michael Salm. Eli Vincent Salm. Dong Mei Seraphan. Paul Lindsay Schnebley. Nicholas Eric Schutz. Alden James Skeetus. Courtney Ellen Spence. Alexandra Grace Starr. Assisting with the presentation of this diploma will be Honorary Trustee Al Stone. Benjamin Wells Stone. Sean M. Suzuki. Devin Lolly Taylor. Madeline Carlin Thero. Christina Jane Tower. Bonyeni Chuma. Tu Jingqian. Craig M. Waldy. Wang Ji Yi. Anne Sophia Harris Warzeka. Samuel Nicholas Augustine Weaver. John T. Way. Assisting with the presentation of this diploma will be Trustee Ruth White. Gregory William White. Sean Michael Winthrop. Robert Rory Daly Wise. Yang Jia Yun. Hanan Zahir. hold on to your hats while I give some brief exit instructions. The way our ceremony concludes is that the students will process out first and form a line around the quad through which the faculty will process. One note for parents, please, if you can keep the aisle clear, even in your desire to take nice photos so that the faculty can get through and other people can take nice photos, that would be much appreciated. So for the first time, I believe, we are closing our ceremony with the singing of the school song, and we are blessed to have a singable, nice, decent school song. You'll find it printed in your program, and I would ask you to rise. Congratulations to the class of 2015 graduates of Lawrence Academy.